Delighted to say, joining me today is journalist and political commentator Henry Hill. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Lots to talk about at home and abroad. Where do we even start?
Where would you like to start?
I'd like to say that, interestingly, those two big stories, very much related. Who has been funding the Islamist element of problems we've had in this country? Iran. You know, they are the problem. Who is causing the problems we've got right now in terms of, price of oil and everything? Iran. I mean, you can say, America taking on Iran. Iran is a threat to world peace. Iran needs to be taken on, is my view. Sooner or later, Iran releasing a nuclear weapon in the Middle East will probably be more of an issue in the future than what is going on now. But let's start with Donald Trump saying various different speeches, very different statements, various different posts on Truth Social. The Iran war will end very soon. We're already ahead of schedule. We've won, but we haven't won enough. And then threatening to bring death, fire and fury down on Iran if they continue to stop oil tankers using the Strait of Hormuz. Is the war almost over?
I mean, who knows? This is one of the things about Donald Trump, is that he'll simply say sort of 3 or 4 different slightly Delphic statements, and one of them will turn out to be true. I don't think anyone, including him, knows which one it is at the time. Because his argument is, we're doing phenomenally well and therefore we can end the war. On the other hand, we aren't necessarily doing as well as we need to have been, so we can't end the war yet. He's furious about Iran threatening, as you say, the critical global oil choke point in the Strait of Hormuz. I think that the challenge for Donald Trump is that his coalition, his voter coalition, hates this stuff, right? Like, he was supposed to be the big Republican turn away from the neocon era, and that was very popular.
Every single American president has been elected on an isolationist basis. Everyone. The only one who actually was Obama, and that was a disaster.
I mean, I think the thing is, once you have all of these global commitments, historically, actually, 100 years ago, America just was very isolationist. But every president since then who's tried to go back to it has realised that, sadly, I suppose, they've become a global superpower. And actually, if you step back, no one else is really able to step into that breach.
Well, no. The issue is when America steps back, someone else does step in. It's Russia or it's China. Call me old-fashioned. I don't care how much you got a problem with Donald Trump, how much you got trouble with America. I choose America every time.
From the West, I would have said, not in the same way.
Yeah, we're not up to it. Although apparently the French are rather more up to it than we are, with sending... I mean, this is amazing stuff. They're sending 8 warships. They're deploying 8 frigates, more than the entire British fleet possesses, as well as 2 amphibious helicopter carriers and their flagship aircraft carrier Charles de Gaulle to the Med to help protect Cyprus. We haven't even got anything out there yet. This is a national humiliation.
It is. It is absolutely extraordinary what's happened to the Royal Navy presence, especially because we've got, for historical reasons, on paper, a fairly good position. We've got a naval base in Bahrain, actually, but with no ships in it.
Now, again, I'm no expert, but I think I may have spotted the flaw.
I know. I feel like I always, when you're hesitant to second-guess subject matter experts and generals and admirals and that sort of thing. But nonetheless, I, as a civilian, who might be wrong, think that a naval base is best served by having ships.
Should we do a public question on that? Do you think it would be better, on balance, for your... But this is the thing. This is where we're at, and this is exposed to reality. And again, I don't think we can only blame Keir Starmer for this. I think and the current defence chiefs. Again, this has been going on for years. We had those cuts by 1/3 in defence spending under Cameron and Osborne. This whole peace dividend, and again austerity. There was no money. The trouble is, defence spending is something that it costs a heck of a lot of money, and if it really works, you never have to use it.
Well, exactly. It looks redundant, but actually it goes back a bit further than austerity. This is the important thing. So there was an order of frigates in 1996, and then I think that the next order of frigates was at some point in the 2010s. And then the next one was in the early 2020s. So there was a very, very long period from 1996, all through the New Labour years, they didn't order any new frigates, right?
Well, then that was the post-Cold War peace dividend period. People thought, well, that's it, life's changed.
Well, I suppose, but the thing is, nobody formally said we're not going to need any more. And everyone sort of looked on paper, because at the time, the surface fleet was quite all right. But they just didn't account for what would happen when these ships started retiring. And the other problem with the British Navy is that they keep getting because they need to keep up with the Americans. And so they go for the ultra-expensive ship with all the bells and whistles. But that means that every generation of ships has half the number of actual vessels in it. And that means
I think we're seeing the basic problem. I mean, look, we've got the French are helping us out. Thanks, Macron. I mean, God, that hurt. That really hurt to say. It really, really... Oh, Emmanuel, when we're having to rely on you to protect our military bases. Look, we're finally... HMS Dragon's finally going to set sail in the next couple of days. So that'll be 5. And it'll take a week to get there. I mean, frankly, the war may well be over. We've got, of course, the impact, and we discussed a lot on the show yesterday about, this impact on people back home. Because, look, we're seeing the impact on people living in the Middle East, particularly in Israel and in Iran, of these weapons raining down on them and deaths, civilian deaths absolutely included. But, back here at home and across the world, people are feeling the cost of that oil price surge. It's going to affect your petrol prices, your diesel prices at the pumps. It's affecting heating your home, putting the lights on. It's affecting everything that is transported to you, everything you buy. I mean, this is going big. We're talking, and the Chancellor Rachel Reeves yesterday saying, we've got inflation currently at 3%. 50% above where it should be at 2%, and looking at it going possibly to 5% if this carries on because of that huge inflationary cost. We've got Trump's threatening, Iran if they basically continue to stop oil tankers using the Strait of Hormuz, where there's this tiny little bit, isn't it? All the oil pretty much in the Middle East comes out is on the eastern side of that strait, that Gulf, and then it all comes down through there. A fifth of the world's oil and gas comes out of there. And if it's closed down, now the French are saying we're going to go and send, aircraft carriers, we're going to go and protect that so ships can go. But a lot of it just comes down to insurance. Basically, you've got a multi-million-pound ship, an oil tank or whatever, and the insurance company go, nah, we are not going to insure you going through there. End of. Full stop. And so they're just stopping production, they're stopping transportation. That's when things are going to get very, very nasty. Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you're America and you've got this vast defence budget at this point, you might end up just having to spend some of it offering to underwrite the ships to get them through. There was some talk of them doing that, wasn't there? I mean, also, but even Donald Trump's comments overnight has helped bring the oil price down. It's going to be over soon, don't worry. Which you'd hope. But the challenge, of course, is that, one, oil tankers are very big and very slow. And also quite explodey. That's a technical military term. That is a technical military term. Quite explodey. Got off a flight yesterday, apologies. I'm sorry, that's the best description I've heard. But also, historically, you'd have needed some kind of big artillery system in order to hit them, right? Which is actually relatively easy for Western military to take on. We've got excellent air power. Yeah. Nowadays, you can do it with a drone. Right, yeah. We saw this with the Houthis actually in the Red Sea. They are a militia essentially, but they have land missiles, very portable, that can hit and sink a trade ship, and a big American battle group on the sea doesn't actually stop them. Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating, that impact, isn't it? How damaging do you think this is going to end up being for Keir Starmer? I mean, the polls are suggesting, people are very much opposed to this war. I'm sorry, I'm of the view, again, with people who go, I'm anti-war. Well, great. Yeah, everyone could be anti-war. You could be anti-war in 1938, 1939, can't you? Doesn't mean war's not coming for you. The whole point, I mean, amazing thing, Nick Robinson on Radio 4 this morning saying, but, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, has been dreaming about war with Iran for years. Like, dreaming about? No, understanding the existential threat that this country that says, this regime that says, our main aim in life is to annihilate Israel and kill everyone in it, and then go for that's the little Satan, and then the other little Satan, us, and then the big Satan, America. They said it. It does exactly what it says on the tin. The Tehran regime. That's their aim in life. Terror plots here and they're like, I'm sorry, but people talking about the economic cost, and we discussed this on the show yesterday. The oil price spike, and Trump saying it's a small price to pay. He's a multi-millionaire. It's okay for him. Other people who are struggling every day, I understand. However, Tehran getting a nuclear weapon, Tehran using that nuclear weapon or holding that over the Middle East so no action ever be taken against them, as they basically fund terror networks across the Middle East. And yes, here in Europe and here in Britain, 20 foiled Iranian-backed terror attacks in recent years have been foiled here. Some not foiled, by the way. I'm sorry, but that is going to cost us a heck of a lot more. This is a threat that needs to be dealt with. This is, as a guest from Jerusalem said on my show yesterday, this is the modern day Hitler in terms of the Iranian regime, and they've got to be dealt with. And it is a price that is going to have to be paid, because otherwise the price in the future is going to be so much worse.
Well, I think what Iran is desperately hoping for is that if it can get a nuclear bomb, it ends up under the nuclear umbrella, and essentially it becomes impossible to deal with them. And this is a regime, as you say, which even if you disregard the sort of idea of a direct threat to Britain, which you shouldn't, just look at the way it's conducted itself amongst its near neighbours, right? It explicitly just sets up networks of virulently anti-Semitic militias in all of Israel's neighbours, right? It backed the Assad regime in Syria to prosecute its own civilians as well. But I think the other thing is that there's no real benefit to sitting out, right, because of the way that the damage is happening. Ted Heath, when he didn't join in the Middle East in the 70s, he actually got Britain exempted from the oil embargo, right? And so, but
was a benefit.
Here, Iran is not proposing to let British ships through the Strait of Hormuz, right? And so if we don't get involved, the economic impact is absolutely no different to if we do get involved.
I don't think the Americans really needed us. Doesn't sound like we could be much use, but it does seem that we have damaged that relationship.
Of course we have.
But the Prime Minister's, you know, he's a very unpopular Prime Minister. I don't know if his poll ratings could go down much further than they already have. I mean, the diehards who are still standing by him surely are just going to stay standing by him. But by this role where he's basically sitting out, a lot of people are saying that's a popular move. But we can sit out. But when household bills go up and you can't get a mortgage and you can't pay your energy bills again, or let's face it, and taxes go up to pay for the extra government spending, etc., and the government debt interest payments, he's gonna take the hit anyway. Same as Donald Trump is. I
mean, exactly. And the thing is, all this talk about we need to protect British people from the impact of an oil war in the Middle East. Fine, we've got the North Sea.
Yeah.
Let's have a big old U-turn on the North Sea.
Right? It's so painful.
What about shale gas fracking? Like Britain could still. This is the thing a lot of people don't think. Look at Norway, right? Norway. Whenever we hear about the North Sea's dead and done, Norway's drilling the same gas fields that we could be drilling.
They're literally joined up.
Britain could be an energy exporter, right? And that could mean either lower bills.
But Ed Miliband keeps saying, but it's still our market is still completely based on the international market, and yet our bills are so much higher than everyone else's. So that doesn't doesn't make sense.
Well, part of the reason for that is that we put so many taxes on them.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. There's so much to talk about, and we're covering a lot of this, and I think we will for many weeks. But I also want to talk about that big announcement yesterday, leaked last week. But this basic, cohesion document, this which is basically trying to sort of tackle what they call, the breakdown of social cohesion and the issue of anti-Muslim hostility. This is what they call a major crackdown on Islamophobia, and they announced an official definition of anti-Muslim hostility because there's been lots of outcry about this term Islamophobia. All of the people that they have supposedly consulted or basically have got organisations with links to extremism, big concern there. They're going to appoint an anti-Muslim hostility czar to tackle it. They're going to spend £4 million in total on trying to tackle this issue. £4 million over a huge country, frankly, it's chicken feed. It's not going to do anything. But basically, they're going to define anti-Muslim hostility as crimes such as violence or harassment directed at people who are either Muslim or perceived to be, as well as prejudicial stereotyping to encourage hatred against them and unlawful discrimination. Now, nobody should be shouted at, attacked, threatened, treated differently because they are clearly Muslim, where their appearance or their behaviour or whatever, that's absolutely unacceptable. We have freedom of religious worship in this country. However, a lot of concerns, and we spoke to Toby Young from the Free Speech Union yesterday about this, a lot of concerns about how this could impact our ability to have a reasonable discussion about issues which does involve the Muslim community. And the funny thing I find about this is the government talks constantly about the Muslim community and Muslim community leaders and how we have to consult them and all this. And yet, one of the things about this is that you're not supposed to treat Muslims as if they've all got one identity. I've been saying for years, there's no middle-class white woman atheist identity. There's no community leader for me. Why do they think that every Muslim has got the same views, or every black community leaders? Why would every black person? Why would someone who's been born in this country 3 generations on, or someone who's from the Caribbean, or someone who's from Nigeria have the same views or share the same cultural viewpoints? I mean, this is nonsense. So the government, in doing this, creates exactly the same idea, this monolithic idea of Muslimness, and then say, but you mustn't talk about that.
It is absolutely. I mean, I sort of just viscerally hate this modern tendency to deal with everything in terms of communities, right? They're citizens, right?
We're individuals.
We're individuals, but we're also citizens of a common community, the national community. And when we insist on treating people as if actually no, they're this particular characteristic and that makes them a block, that's a real testament to the failure of integration, if indeed it's worth doing. But the other thing about this is, well, one of the many things, they're not actually making it law, right? So this is a government that is scrapping non-crime hate incidents because
they're not a law.
Well, no, exactly right. This is the thing. They're scrapping non-crime hate incidents because they have finally realised that it is basically sucking up lots of police resources, recording things which are not crimes, and now they are proposing at the same time to set up this bureaucracy that will start investigating things which, again, are not crimes because we already have crimes against hate speech in this country, right?
If you attack someone or you verbally threaten somebody because of their religion, that is already against the law,
right?
And quite rightly so.
Exactly. So this whole thing is, I think, if we're honest, a sop. Labour is worried about losing ground with Muslim voters. We saw at the last general election. To the Greens, but also to the Independents, who took several seats last time. And I think that's where this has come from. They are hoping that creating this czar with its £4 million budget will assuage.
Why don't they go the whole way and just create the blasphemy law, which we de facto already have anyway?
Well, because they don't want to do it formally, because formally, if you're a progressive, you can't have a blasphemy.
But the thing is, you say, like, no, scrapping of non-crime hate incidents. I mean, that's what a lot of this will end up being, won't it? But but the key thing is that we had two happened to be both women, Tory Home Secretaries, who tried to scrap them. They weren't able to because they're just a creation of the College of Policing, who are completely and utterly captured organisation and needs to be shut down tomorrow for the sake of this country's basic, law and order and criminal justice system. But this is the thing, so they're not going to be able to do that. But this is, even if it's not the law, I've had lots of WhatsApp groups, people are discussing this, and the thing is, oh, it's not the law, it's not the law. Well, there's loads of things that aren't the law. I mean, Maya Forstetter proved the fact that she was allowed to say quite clearly that men can't become women and trans women are not women in a tweet when she in her workplace. But she lost her job as a result of that. Went to tribunal, lost that, appealed and won. We've had case after case after case. Hamit Kuşkan, the Turkish guy who set fire to a Quran outside the Turkish embassy. One lost one. I mean, we are. Lost one, lost one won. We are constantly having things which are clearly not against the law, being treated as if they are against the law. And I'm telling you, it's going to have a chilling effect on broadcasters because of Ofcom and in employers. And they take this stuff on and go, well, this is the guidance. As it is, Ofcom, they want, you're not allowed to have a conversation about climate change because that's settled. That's settled. We have complaints about, I'm sorry, it's not settled science. There's no such thing as settled science. We've got the theory of evolution still, by the way. It's not proven. Of course, 99.9999999% think that's what's happened. But that's not science. Ofcom is of the view that saying that a trans woman is not a woman is actually, unacceptable. Well, again, sod you. Don't care. I'll pay the fine myself. I'll crowdsource it. So even though things that are blatantly not the law, they have a habit of impacting on people's ability to speak freely, and about things like the largely majority Muslim Pakistani grooming gangs. The discussion of that was shut down for 10 years as it was. People literally lost their ability to speak on social media because of that. This is going to be shut down by this, because having a conversation about why were the perpetrators largely of one particular background and why were the victims largely of another background, why was that happening, what was going on in terms of attitudes by the rapists themselves and also by the authorities that meant that was able to continue for so long. If you can't have that conversation because in some way that will be regarded as anti-Muslim hostility, then you shut down all debate about a mass crime against young girls. Oh, no,
I entirely agree with you. I didn't mean to suggest the fact that it wasn't the law meant that it wasn't serious. But it does mean, for example, Labour has bypassed, if you wanted to make this law, it would have to have an awful lot more scrutiny in the House of Commons. For example, you'd have to have a much bigger process. And the other thing is, and you know this because we've seen this every time one of these things gets up, when a bureaucracy like this gets set up, the one thing that everyone who works for it needs to do is justify their own existence. So this will produce an endless stream of alleged evidence of Islamophobia, which will then lead to more demands for more action from Labour as it gets more desperate in the run-up to the general election.
Absolutely. The main issue, of course, though, is that actually we have seen an increase in Islamophobia. There's no doubt at all about that in this country. Well, anti-Muslim hostility, and it's unacceptable. However, when you conflate, you know, perfectly legitimate conversations about Islamism, Islamists, about... I mean, no, I don't think there should be sort of mass praying events in the street and the like. I'm sorry, I don't. I think that is just a massive, you know, by any religion, by the way. You've got your places of worship. Thank you. I don't want it. I will defend your right to worship how you want, whatever your religion, but don't impose it on me in the street. I'm sorry. I don't want you knocking on my door about it. I don't want it in the street when I'm trying to drive or walk down it. I think there are issues like that. I think we should be allowed to have those conversations. And again, a lot of the hostility people express towards Muslims, and I think it's completely wrong if you're going to direct it towards, you know, a woman who's just got a hijab and walking down the street, minding her own business, going off to, you know, go shopping. That's obviously unacceptable. I mean, that's the same as people shouting out the N-word at a black person or abuse at a woman just for being a woman. However, there's a reason why a lot of hostility has grown up over recent years, and it is the fact that people have been told, don't talk about it, don't say anything, you're a bad person, you're a bigot if you do say anything. When you talk about the threat of Islamism, extremist religious Muslim views in this country, that have meant that, you know, the Batley Grammar School teacher is still in hiding with his wife and 4 kids. I mean, you know, the fact that kids get blown up at a pop concert, the fact that we've got bollards on every bridge in London to stop people being mown down by lunatics in cars or lorries. I mean, you know, there's a reason why people started feeling hostile towards what they believe were the people who were perpetrating this. Now, ordinary Muslims going about their daily lives are not perpetrating this, but a lot of these so-called Muslim community leaders are very much not speaking out against it. And that is a very big issue. And the more we start treating people as individuals who are, you know, held accountable for their own actions, beliefs, and, you know, and speech, that will be a much healthier thing.
Of course. And this is, you alluded to it at the beginning, the great irony of this, of course, is that what we really want is to make people who are rightly angry about those issues not blame Muslims en bloc. Do you know what doesn't help with that? If you have somebody who's like, well, I think the grooming gangs are really bad, and somebody's like, you can't say that, mate, that's anti-Muslim.
Exactly.
It's like, no, it's not.
Yeah, absolutely not. Facts aren't racist, and they're not bigoted. Facts are just facts. Simple as that. So much.